Welcome back from the lunch. I hope you enjoyed it. The plate was very cold, but the food was good, I think. So that's good. So now it's time for the port perspective. Perspective of the port. It will be Jenny Folkeunger from the Port of Trelleborg that presents. Very happy to have you here. Jenny holds the position as an environmental and sustainable manager at the port. You also study a master in law, specializing in law. Master in laws, specializing in environmental law. And you have over 10 years experience from local and regional governance in Sweden with a focus on marine, environmental and port-related issues. And you have been working at World Maritime University as well.
I have.
So that's really nice to have you here. So please, welcome.
Hello, everyone. I agree, the plate was cold, so I feel a bit frozen as well. Now I know why. So I was asked to give the port perspective on carbon capture, and I dare say that it's quite different from the previous presentations. Our perspective is, of course, not as technical at all, but our port is in an interesting position where we're basically transitioning into offsetting emissions instead of focusing on reducing them. So in that regard, I think that we're in a good position to give our perspective. We have a long history of emissions reductions, not quite this old, but I really like history, so I think these old photos are fascinating. And they kind of illustrate how we went from zero emissions to a lot of emissions, and now we're going towards zero emissions again. Part of what we're working on is our energy production. And as you'll see here in this picture, we have a solar cell park, and we actually have 2 wind turbines in ports. We consider ourselves very lucky to have those. They produce about 15 million kilowatt hours per year, which means that we can provide completely green shore power for our ferries. I didn't say that, but for those of you who aren't familiar with our ports, we're exclusively a RoPax port, so we don't have to deal with a lot of unknown vessels. We are closely familiar with our customers and all the ferries that call in our port. Our emissions today are extremely low. For 2024, they were 207 ton carbon dioxide equivalents. And often it's kind of hard to relate to how much that is. So I like to put it in perspective. And it's about the equivalent of 40 to 50 Swedish houses in a year. Or it's the same as if we would give t-shirts to everybody in Gävle. Or perhaps a pair of jeans to everyone in Vetlanda. And for those who are curious, this is what ChatGPT thinks that 9,500 jeans look like in a 2x2 square. But this is, of course, a tongue-in-cheek way of saying that our emissions are very, very low. They are about the same as one ship during one work week. And that means that our emissions in Scope 1, our direct emissions, they're only 1% of the total emissions relating to our port. Most of the emissions come from us running our terminal trucks, but we've switched to HVO 100, so those emissions are quite low. The next step would be electrical, but that's not quite in the cards right now because it's too expensive and the technology is not quite there. We have also switched from natural gas to biogas for heating, and those are the 2 big posts in our Scope 1 emissions. But in 2025 and 2026, the emissions will be even lower. So basically, we have already lowered what we can lower. And that puts us in a position where it's a disproportionate cost for us to keep lowering our emissions. The marginal gain versus the marginal costs shows us that that's not really a worthwhile focus anymore. As an example, some of us went to Liverpool for an internal education program trip, and the flights to Liverpool immediately showed in our Scope 1 emissions. So we are at the point where we can't do anything else without it showing in our Scope 1 emissions. So we are at the point where we're shifting from emissions reductions to balancing the emissions that we do have. And it's the next step. It's not a shortcut. We've done everything that we can. It's not an excuse to keep reducing. We will keep doing that whenever we can. But now we consider carbon capture as a tool when all the other tools have already been exhausted. We're looking at a system perspective instead of optimizing in our ports more. And luckily for us, we have a good option. We have CSOV's Sky Zero. They are looking to do carbon capture locally, about half an hour from where we're located in Malmö. We have signed up for about 400 tons per year. And if all goes well with the permitting process and all of those steps, the plan is that it will be up and running in 2030. We think that is a great option for us because it's local, it's verifiable, and it's very long term. And for us, credibility is key. The factors that we consider important is quality factors such as the permanency and, of course, the trustworthiness. It needs to be verifiable by a third party. And also a clear ownership of the negative emissions. We really want to avoid pitfalls such as greenwashing, double counting, and too short contracts in a system that really requires a long-term perspective. As you remember, we have 200 tons emissions today. That will be much lower in 2030, hopefully. And we signed up for 400 tons. So occasionally I get the question, did we sign up for too much? And I don't think so. I think regardless of how much we signed up for, we will find a way to use it strategically together with our customers. We're only working with three shipping companies, so we're very close to each other and we have an ongoing dialogue. But hopefully we can share compensation with clients and find new port services where we can benefit from the negative emissions that we are buying. So this is our new rule. We have not really ventured into taking this further unless there is a clear interest from the shipping companies operating in our ports. There's not at all a business case for investigating other options further until there's an interest. But where we are now, we'll continue to reduce wherever possible and hopefully buy from CSOV as soon as their plant is up and running. And with a little bit of luck and further interest from the shipping companies in our ports and long-haul truck companies, we could possibly in the future act as a hub for negative emissions to cope with the Scope 3 emissions, which are the big parts of emissions relating to our port. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have any questions for Jenny? Might pop up later on. I think this was really interesting and it's a fantastic work that you are doing and will be doing in the port of Trelleborg. What is like the biggest challenge for you nowadays in the port? It hasn't necessarily have to do with CCS or something like this, but what is when you come back tomorrow, what is the first thing that you do?
I think the biggest challenge for us is always the scope 3 emissions. We are, of course, working with shipping companies and we're collaborating to a large extent, but we're shifting a bit of focus towards the truck side of it. There's close to 1 million trucks passing through our ports every year, and that's a big part of the scope 3 emissions. But they are sort of further removed from the ports. And in order to combat the scope 3 emissions, we need to work closer with them. So that's where we're shifting a bit of the focus.
All right. What is your strategy in connection to charging trucks in the port? Is that something that you have been discussing?
Yes, that is an ongoing discussion. But at the moment, we've concluded that most of that is better done close to the port, but outside of the port, since we don't want trucks inside the port for really long periods of time. So it needs to be close to the port, but preferably outside of the port. And then we have moved the port, and we'll change direction from where we have the trucks entering the port, and we will build a new truck center. So once we do that, then the charging will be in that area, which is also slightly off and outside of the port.
All right, thank you. All right, a big thank you, Jenny.
Thank you.
No. So, now we will enter the segment or the theme of business models and financing. I did the same. So, when you talk about business model, you should always contact a Danish person. So that's why I called Jan. Because Danes, they are good at doing business, I heard, or I learned the hard way, maybe. So, Jan Boysen, Market Director, CCUS, at the Danish Technological Institute. Jan and I actually go back quite a while. We did a project called Connected Ship together, I think. So Jan knows also a bit about digitalization of ships. So it's really nice to have you here and to meet you again. You have a vast experience in enabling knowledge development and R&D project collaborations between companies, universities, technology institutions, organizations and authorities. And within the area of green transport. And you're now, since a year or two ago, focusing on CCUS?
Yes, actually 3 years now.
3 years already. Right. Anyhow, please go ahead, Jan.
Thank you. Yes, so thank you for the fine introduction. I do speak fluent Swedish, I would say, but since we're speaking English, today I will not have the possibility to do that. I was actually looking forward. But about myself, I'm raised in Spain, but went to a Swedish school, so therefore I speak Swedish. And my father, he made cement factories all over the world, which pollute about 7 to 8% of the global CO₂ production. So I think he single-handed built 15 cement factories, which would be more or less the same emissions as all of Denmark. So I guess I need to fix that. That's at least a personal challenge that I have. As said, I come from the Danish Technological Institute. I will not talk a lot about that. But essentially, we are very focused on technology development and technology implementation. And I work across 5 divisions and 31 technology centers. And normally what we do is that we validate and develop and implement technology together with companies. So it's a lot on carbon capture. This is our carbon capture facility, where we test different solvents, we test the energy of carbon capture, we check on corrosion, all different issues that will be on implementing this technology. Also, a lot of our traditional activities, you can say, on materials, corrosion, pumps, a lot of equipment going into this new industry. We have a lot of laboratories working on that. Then we're also looking into monitoring both the onshore, the offshore stores, but also the infrastructure, looking into the emissions from the systems. And finally, on the more, you can say, advanced futuristic stuff, we also look into producing materials, plastics, fuels, so on. So a lot of conversion technologies, catalysts, and all of that. And what I will be talking, I don't have much time, but what I will try to talk about is the experiences from Denmark on land, because that's really recent. Then also, where are we on utilization as well, which is, of course, the obvious alternative for a ship owner. And then look a little bit into the case of onboard carbon capture. The Danish government, as the Swedish, has set aside a lot of money for CCS, 38.9 billion Danish crowns, so that's 5 billion euros to do CCS. And the first project that should have been running, but it's very close to be full running, is the Ørsted project, two amine-based capture facilities in Zealand, so one in Copenhagen, where I live, and one in Kalundborg, 430,000 tons per year. There will be a vessel coming to a new port facility in Kalundborg, sailing it up to Northern Lights. So that's very nice. The business case is selling CDR credits to Microsoft, because it's, of course, bioenergy. It's wood chips and it's straw, so you have negative credits that you can sell. You don't have any ETS that you can save. The second project that should also have been running by now, but it will be running by second quarter this year, is on biomethane upgrading. 3 companies have received funds from the Danish government. They will have, of course, that much more scatter around. They will have a hub in Esbjerg, trucks coming to the biogas facilities and then collecting it, and then a ship that has been built but is still kind of being finalized will collect the CO2 and then put it into an oil and gas field out in the North Sea. So that's also very good. So that will actually be the first storage. All very nice. But that was you can say the first 2, or no, let me first start by touching, we also have a lot of licenses. So 8 licenses have been given. The different companies have received these and they are doing exploration, so seismicity, checking how the reservoir is working and so on. So we will have a lot of potential storage. So that's all very nice. And then we have this tender, which there were 16 companies applying for CCS. 10 of them were selected. 9 of them opted out. They have spent like 100 million euros in consultancy. All the 9 on top of this, in kind of to design the projects and select the vendors and all of that. And then they decided not to go for it. So I will give a little bit learnings on what happened there, because people are, of course, really angry and upset and washing their hands, as you say. But the good thing is that yesterday, because that's why I have my own computer, because previously it was a little bit uncertain whether Aalborg Portland will actually go for applying. But they actually did do that. So yesterday they announced that they will capture 1.4 million tons from Portland, from a cement factory up in northern Jutland. So that's very good. And that means that we will actually have a big cement factory doing the capture as well. So that will be the third project. And then storage on land. But I guess one of the problems has been in Denmark that the timelines politically on the one hand and the project on the other hand have not been aligned. So if you're a project owner, you need to make sure that you can actually get rid of the CO2. The way that it has been funded is that you only get the money when you do the actual storage. So you get about 1,000 Danish crowns, meaning that if you don't store, you don't get money from the government. You have invested a lot of money in a capture facility, which you don't get any money out of, and you will get a fine from the Danish government. So not super attractive And of course, the storage operators, they said, yeah, we will take your CO2, but we will not guarantee that we will take your CO2. So I think that was one of the main challenges for the very tight deadline. The second challenge has been that there is no infrastructure and there is no infrastructure plan. And that means that each company was essentially competing against everyone else. Even though, for instance, two companies could be looking at using the port of Kalundborg to ship out CO2, they could have collaborated, but since it was a secret competition, they were not allowed to do that. So that means that there was no kind of joint infrastructure plan, and each company had to take a lot of risk on themselves to create this. That was kind of a major point of criticism from the industry, that we didn't do like you do with many other things, where you say the infrastructure is common and then the facilities are private. And then the third, and absolutely also not the least problem, has been the commercial risk of the projects. So essentially this business model or business case is built on one, you get money from the Danish government, about 1,000 krones, but that's not enough to pay for your costs. You need another stream of revenue. And the way you can do that is that if you have bio CCS, you can sell a credit. And if you have a black CO2, you can get an ETS discount. And the problem, essentially the CDR credits are more valuable on the market. The technical credits trade for about $200 per ton, which is quite good. Only problem being that if you look at the amount of credits actually being sold, it's only about 20%. So essentially, if you're a company that is interested in building this, you will be looking into that a lot of your revenue will come from something that maybe you cannot sell. And that's creating a massive problem for the project. Then you have the ETS market, and the good thing about that is it's a liquid market. You have a lot of credits being sold, so about 1,500 billion, so quite a lot, but the price is quite low. So if you put the money you get from the government and the ETS, it will be difficult for you to make a business out of that. So that will be the bad thing about it. I'm pretty sure that one of the reasons for the cement factory going for this was that they are in the scheme of the mandatory CO2 trading. So they knew that, I mean, it's not a high price you get for or you save for the ETS, but at least it's a tax and you're pretty sure you will save that. And you will get a product that is more valuable. Then a little bit on the utilization case. And for sure, Maersk was one of the first ship owners announced very aggressively that they will purchase the methanol ships, as you probably remember 5 years ago or something like that. So we are really looking into utilization of carbon. Me, myself, I'm working quite intensively on having a national strategy for carbon, for plastics, for fuels, for CCS. And this is an analysis from COVI, looking into today in Denmark, we use 33 million tons of carbon, you can say this amount of carbon in CO2, 33 million tons of CO2. And the expectation is that in the future we'll need the same amount. And this has to come from somewhere. But if you look at the available point sources, it's much lower than that. So that's going to be a problem, to be honest. And we need to remember this in all this talk about CCUS, that carbon is also used for many other purposes. But if you look at the ballpark calculations on the ship owner business case, then you can pay the ETS, 81 euros per ton. You can go for onboard carbon capture. Of course, you have the 50 to 70 euros for capturing, but then you will also have the cost for compression, offloading it, and then transporting it, and then storing it. So at the end of the day, you will have a much higher cost than the ETS. So essentially, that's not a good business case unless something happens. And then you have e-methanol. And right now, some of these e-methanol projects in China are trading spot prices for e-methanol for 850 US dollars per ton. That's really cheap. But even though you see that, it's much, much more expensive than onboard carbon capture. So compared to methanol, onboard carbon capture is a better business case, but right now it's just cheaper to pay the tax, essentially. And then my final point, onboard carbon capture, and the AI has created some totally new technology for capturing CO2. I really like the funnels here. We see some retrofits already out there. Some we heard from the Wärtsilä case today on the full. Take the full Monty. You also have some other projects taking out a stream of CO2. But essentially, existing technology just being applied, the one we see from onshore to offshore technology. But for sure, it can be done. I mean, of course, all coming out of the shipping industry will complain that it's difficult and you don't have space and don't have energy and so on and so forth. But it's been shown that it's actually possible. And I completely get that it's difficult, but it can be done. And one of the cases that could push for this would be retrofitting existing ships to improve the CII score. This is a case from a container ship from Korea, where they make only a 3 ton per hour installation, but doing that they prolong the lifetime of the vessel because it improves the CII score. So that's actually an interesting case when this is accepted as a technology, of course. But I think that at the end of the day, that will happen. And another thing supporting the idea of onboard carbon capture, I think, is that we're seeing massive investments, not only in Denmark and Sweden, but also now the Germans are on board as well, and the UK is investing massively in CCS. And of course, you will be able to combine this infrastructure for onshore systems and offshore systems. So it's not only the shipping industry that will have to finance the whole thing. And I think you will create a CO2 value chain that shipping can tap into. So just to wrap it up, the pros for the onboard carbon capture is that, of course, you can, in the future, will be able to comply with the EU regulation and probably also the IMO regulation. It's cheaper than e-fuels, and it's a bridge solution that has also been talked about today. The cons are that there is no business case today. It's not also accepted, but it probably will. And it's of course difficult having all this equipment and so on. And you can say also the business model. So the ship owner will often, there will be a charter that will actually be paying for the fuel. So you also have like all these commercial agreements in shipping are a little bit more complex than many other things. So you might also have who is actually going to pay for the investment in the vessel.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, do we have any questions? Here is one. Wait a little bit so we get your mic.
Yes, but they can't hear you.
Thank you. Question. You have a company in Denmark, Maersk. They're not so small, what I understand. Is there some cooperation or some development together with them? Are they not interested because they are?
They are looking at it.
Yeah.
They're looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's no connection in this.
They are interested, but they don't have any plans in doing this.
No.
So,
Thank you. Any more questions?
I already have microphone.
Yeah, that's
Very
cheating.
good.
On your CC. Oh, is it me? Yeah. On your slide on CCU, you mentioned the chemical industry as a potential off-taker of recycled or sustainable carbon. What is your feeling here? Is when will we see policies creating a demand for recycled or sort of biogenic carbon in that industry? Because that could be sort of perhaps the market pull for some of those CCS solutions that some of the shipping companies are looking at.
I think it's super difficult. I essentially personally think that it makes sense to talk about the color of carbon, which a lot of people or many in the industry don't believe. But I'm not sure it's going to happen. And from my perspective, I think the most important thing will be that we get a functional carbon market. So right now, the CDR market is not aligned with the ETS market, and the price for the CDR is crazy. It goes like from $30 for trees in the Amazons to $1,000, $2,000 for a BEX or for a DAC credit. And any economist will say that at some time you need to fix a price point. So I think essentially the major problem is that we don't have a carbon market in general. And then you can, so if we could have that, that would be wonderful. And then you can always discuss on kind of the pricing on the colors. But for sure, as of today, the credits that are actually being traded here, the technical credits are from $200 to $1,000. So, and over there you have $81. But I mean, so obviously the green has more value. Problem being that it has a high value, but it's not being sold. Yeah.
All right. No more questions for Jan? Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Then we will switch computer.
Less. I don't know the English word for rundgång.
Round gang. I don't know, but something. So let's see. There we are, right?
Yep.
Hope so. So, time for today's last presentation, and it will be done by Joakim Jakobsson from Liquid Wind. Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
You are responsible for public affairs at Liquid Wind. So when I did a little bit of research, meaning looking at LinkedIn and so on, I found out that you had a background as a news reporter, editor, opinion writer, press secretary to the president of the Swedish trade union, that's LO, speech writer for the CEO of Volvo Group. And so you have done many things, and now you will make a presentation about...
and as you hear by Andreas, I'm one of those generalists who knows a little about a lot of things.
That's perfect.
So I'm absolutely not an expert in the maritime industry, but I've spent the last 2 years participating in the Lighthouse meetings, and it has been a fantastic arena, a place to learn about this industry, and I'm super grateful for that and for being introduced. And if you haven't joined Kalle's focus group, please do. It's great. Yeah. So I will focus a little bit about CCU and CCS, but also perhaps talk about one of the policy innovations that is now being developed in Europe around trying to create a market for CCU, sort of building on the experiences from the CCS projects, maybe we should say. So does everyone here know what Liquid Wind is? So it's a Swedish company founded here in Gothenburg, trying to establish the production of e-methanol in 5 sites, or 6, 4 in Sweden and 2 in Finland. We are working together with a group of European technology providers for the facilities, and the investors behind Liquid Wind is French, British, Korean, and German. So those 6 yellow dots here represent attempts to establish the production of fossil-free e-fuels, or RFNBO, as it is called in European legislation. So if we would zoom out and have a map of the entire Europe, you would see 40 of those dots. Attempts, projects trying to establish production of e-fuels. And there's just one who has been able to reach FID and are actually producing, and that is our competitors and friends in European energy doing that at their Kassø plant in Denmark, delivering roughly 40,000 tons of e-methanol to Maersk, Novo Nordisk, and Lego. That's an inspiration to the industry. But so what I want to say is, we haven't succeeded yet, but very few of our competitors have succeeded. So something is, we have a couple of hurdles. So I will talk about 2 of those hurdles. So I will talk about the price gap and the contract mismatch. So if we look at current European policies, we have policies in place that will over time increase off-takers' willingness to pay. Or if I'm talking about the maritime industry, I perhaps should say capacity to pay. And then we have public funding available, mainly through the Innovation Fund and the Hydrogen Bank, with the aim to decrease our sort of minimum selling price. So far, we haven't been able to close this gap, and most estimates say it'll take time that we don't really have before that price gap is closed. The second sort of key challenge that most RFNBO producers face is the challenge when it comes to the length of the offtake contracts. So in order to debt finance or to invest in a production facility, most producers will need a 10-year offtake agreement from someone buying the fuel. Whereas most off-takers cannot sign a 10-year offtake agreement due to the market risk. Price will likely go down over time, and due to the regulatory uncertainty, or you could call the political risk, that the European Commission has created through a series of omnibus initiatives during last year. Sort of, at least if you look at it quickly, it can be seen as perhaps scaling back on the ambitions when it comes to climate policy. So these 2 challenges is something that the industry is facing, and that made a couple of creative Germans come up with an idea to solve those 2 problems, called the double-sided auction, or the double-sided reversed auction. So H2 Global is a foundation founded a few years back by the German government and with money from the Jeff Bezos Earth Fund. And today there is quite a large group of industry stakeholders funding the work of this foundation. They have then created a subsidiary called HINTCO, which stands for Hydrogen Intermediary Company. And this company performs double-sided auctions. So they start a tender, go out on the market and give producers of hydrogen, e-methanol, ammonia the opportunity to come in with a bid. I should say this it's a quite extensive, thorough pre-qualification process to make sure that your project is technically and mature enough. And when you pass that gate, you're allowed to make a bid. And the bidder that comes in with the lowest price wins or is awarded with a 10-year offtake contract. And then HINTCO goes out on the market and sell it to a shipping company or a chemical company or anyone who want to buy this on 1-year contracts. And if there is a price gap, if there's a gap between, you fund it with, well, you use public taxpayers' money to cover this. It's not the way we used to do things. I initially found it quite. Is it a good idea that the government start to buy and sell fuel? So there's been a couple of those auctions. One is now they have a auction open for producers in Africa, Asia, Latin America. There is the European Commission just approved an upcoming auction funded by Germany and Canada for Canadian e-fuel producers. And I should also say that the first attempt to do an ESAF auction a few years back failed due to they couldn't find one single producer that passed the pre-qualification process. So this initiative has got a lot of attention, and in December last year, the European Commission, in relation to something that was called a Sustainable Transport Investment Plan, that is sort of the European Commission's answer to this sort of the lack of fuels produced. So in that plan, as part of it, they launched something that they call the Early Movers Coalition, where they asked member states to co-found a double-sided auction for eSAF, so e-fuels for the aviation industry. And the target there was to jointly gather 500 million euros. 8 member states agreed. I completely failed to convince the Swedish government that we should have joined this initiative, because now it puts both Swedish aviation companies and, I'm afraid, also Swedish e-fuel producers, who might not be able to participate in this auction. And even though the conditions are the best in Europe to do this in Sweden, we might miss out on this opportunity. Anyway, relevant to us here today. So the sort of building on that first pilot auction, the European Commission plans to, during this year, start establish an EU-wide mechanism for double-sided auction that will trade both aviation and maritime fuels. And I think that will be at least very interesting to follow, and there might be opportunities for Swedish stakeholders to participate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joachim. Any questions? No? Great. Crystal clear, as they say. So that was the last presentation for today. First of all, thank you to all the speakers, and thank you to all of you who has been here listening today. I have learned a lot. I didn't know very much on this subject before today. I think I know more today when I arrived here this morning, which was a little bit the aim of it. As all new technologies, we hear the same challenges. It's the business cases, it's the rules and regulations, and so on. But definitely this will be something that we will have in our agendas in the future as well, with regards to CCS and CCUS. I don't know, Jan, if you allow yourself to look 10 years in the future, where are we then? Yes. You don't know. That's an issue, I can tell you.
I think we will have some degree of CCS. But right now, the challenge, to be honest, is that agendas are changing very fast. And the SDGs will probably go into SDG 2.0, where we will also look more into economy and resilience and being able to be self-sufficient. So I think technologies like CCS that essentially only deliver on climate, where you have an additional cost for cleaning, will have a difficult life, because climate is not on the top agenda anymore. So you need to be, if you can, for instance, produce electricity, or you can have a product that also makes us more resilient and also is climate friendly, for instance, that will have a much better way of. So I think the main challenge for CCS is that it only deals with climate. And right now it's mainly EU that is focusing on this agenda, it seems to.
All right, thank you for that. So when doing this wrap-up, I was thinking, since I have all you here today, what's the next step within this subject? What is the next research project that you want to see? Is there a specific issue that you think needs to be more clarified, that you are thinking of? Kalle, you always have some good ideas. What do you say?
I think that the technology to capture carbon is mature today. It can be developed, and costs can be decreased and so on. But to handle the whole value chain or supply chain to get the carbon from the capturing towards end use in utilization or permanent storage or end usage in any kind of chemical building or whatever, that is something that we need to develop. Because as the figures that Jan showed with 150 to 200 euros per ton CO2 for the full chain today, that's just too much, I guess. And I think there is a huge potential of lowering those costs with synergies between industries, between heat and energy and different resources and logistical setups. Yeah, so that's probably where we need to make it more efficient. Yeah. If we are talking about CC or carbon capture, but the same goes for producing fuels and other solutions. Yeah. Any efficiency and so on. That's my best guess.
All right, great. Anybody else? There were one.
Thank you. I'm a guy from automotive from the beginning, and I see if we compare here in automotive, it's the automotive companies who develop, who see the future. In this case, it's more universities, it's more EU, but I think we must have in the industry more. So they should do part of the job. They should see what works, what is not working.
Okay.
Then I think the development should go a lot faster.
Right, so more test and demo projects with industry and so on.
From shipping industry.
From the shipping industry, okay. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else? No? And then just one last thing, and now I might switch to Swedish or skånska i alla fall. Coming events som vi har på gång. Den 17 februari har vi ett webbinarium som går på temat innovation och utveckling inom kollektivtrafik på vatten, och det gör vi tillsammans med Trafikverket och Björn Garberg som någon kanske känner här inne. 12 mars, det är den stora dagen för oss, årskonferens hållbar sjöfart, när vi presenterar nästan alla projekt som har blivit klara under året. Så det blir en full dag med olika projekt ifrån hållbar sjöfartsprogrammet. Den 7 maj så har vi ett event, Nordic Roadmap, tillsammans med IVL, Kalle och DNV, Hannes som var här innan, på Johanneberg i Göteborg, och det kommer vi snart lägga upp mer information om snart. Sen har vi nog någonting till som kommer att klämmas emellan där, men det återkommer vi med. Stort tack för att ni var här idag. Det finns nu då fika igen där ute innan ni åker hem, så ni kan stanna, dricka kaffe och äta någonting och prata med varandra, eller också tar ni med er någonting på resan helt enkelt. Så, stort tack!